Well, good morning. It's Crazy Cheap Chick, and today I'm going to show you how to make a roast in the crock pot that doesn't turn all mushy. No judgment. When I was working full-time, there were plenty of days that I threw a frozen roast in the crock pot, turned it on high, and walked out the door, and I was grateful for that mushy meat when I came home. But there's an easy, better way to do it that tastes so much better. So let me show you how. The first thing we can do to make this a little bit better is to marinate it. I always like to, that feels really tender. If you have a tougher piece of meat, tenderizing is even more important. I was worried I wouldn't have enough Worcestershire sauce, but I did. So all I ended up using was Worcestershire sauce and the vinegar. Ideally, you would marinate this for maybe 2 or 3 days. Now, I didn't put any salt and pepper or any other spices in here. I didn't want to dry the meat out. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sear it in a pan. Now, normally what I do is I sear it in a Dutch oven and then I cook it in a Dutch oven in the oven. But today, I'm just going to use a skillet. Just used regular olive oil, and I'm going to get the skillet really hot. And what we're going to do is we're just going to sear both sides. Now, I've also cut up a couple of onions, and I'm going to cook those at the same time. Now, when you've got that skillet nice and hot, you can go ahead and put your meat in. Now, this step doesn't take very long, but so many people skip it. You just want to sear in the juices of the meat. And I'm also going to add in some onion. But see, I've got it turned all the way up. Kind of lift it up and see how it's doing. See, that's pretty good. Just go ahead and flip it over. Yes. Yeah, that side's looking good too. And don't forget to do the ends. We're searing in the juices. See how it looks. Oh yeah. See, that's what you want. Okay, let's put it in the crock pot now. Beautiful. That's a beautiful roast. I'll keep these onions cooking just a minute more. Let them get a little brown too. The juices the roast was marinating in, you can go ahead and add them. Most of them were absorbed into the meat. Another thing you can do to make this the best roast you've ever had in a crock pot is don't add water. Go ahead and use beef broth. Now, if you put water in, it becomes broth. But if you start out with broth, it becomes an even better, richer broth. And what I usually do is, like, we have roast one night, but then the next night we'll have beef and noodles or vegetable soup or chili, something made out of this broth. And so I want a lot of broth. So I'm adding 2 of these boxes of just Walmart beef broth. Now we can go ahead and add in these onions. I've cooked them a little bit. If you watch my grocery haul videos, then you know I got this veggie tray for $4.10 off the clearance rack. And I've been using it in our daily salads, but now I'm going to take some of these carrots and the rest of this celery and add them to the roast. I rinsed them and in they go. Now I love potatoes around a roast, but my husband doesn't. So I'm going to make mashed potatoes to go with this roast. I'm going to add some seasoning. I don't want to put anything with salt in here, so the broth has a lot of salt in it, so we don't need more salt. So I just put in a little thyme. I'm going to add a little oregano. This is going to give it flavor. A little basil, so just Walmart brand. And I'm also going to add a little rosemary because I love rosemary. And we're going to put the lid on. I got a bag of red nut potatoes for 99 cents, so I'm going to go ahead and dice them up for mashed potatoes. It's going to be a lot of mashed potatoes, even for old John Wayne. Now, one thing I've learned as I've gotten older is you have to budget your energy just like you budget your money. And so I oftentimes kind of pre-prepare things in the morning or before work because I know by evening I just won't have the energy to cook. So I've already got these potatoes cut up. It's early in the morning, but as long as they're covered with water, they'll be just fine and they won't brown. When I'm gonna be home, I usually start my crock pot on high for about the first hour and then turn it down to low. But if I'm gonna be gone all day, like 8, 9, 10 hours, I just put it on low and go. Now, if you're home, resist lifting that lid up. Leave it on. Every time you lift the lid up, you're letting a lot of heat escape and then it has to build back up. I think those potatoes are about ready to mash. I'm gonna drain them and let them sit for a minute before we mash them. I'm sure you all know this, but the spoon is to keep the potatoes from boiling over. I don't know why that works. I always start with half a stick of butter. You know how they say never trust a skinny cook? You can trust me. And now we're going to add our potatoes and mash them, and we'll add a little bit more butter or cream as needed. I really feel like one of the biggest problems people have when they mash potatoes is they just don't let those potatoes drain long enough. Now that's enough potatoes to feed a family of about 10. So that should get us by for a couple of days, at least tonight and tomorrow night. And is it even mashed potatoes if you don't put some, a piece of butter on top to melt and have a little lake? A butter lake. Now it's time to finally take out our roast and see how it turned out. Well, it looks great. Doesn't that look good? Now we're just gonna slice that up. Wow, that looks so good. I've got to just taste a little piece of it. That look great. Tender and juicy. Not all dried out, not mushy. Let's go fishing for our sides, which are carrots. Carrots, celery, onion. Now my husband won't eat any of these, but I love them. Maybe add just a little bit of butter on top of those carrots. And a little bit of dill. Don't need very much. So carrots, mashed potatoes, and roast. It doesn't get much better than that after a long day of working. Now remember, we've got all this beautiful broth. You do not ever want to throw out broth. This is what you're going to use to make all kinds of great meals. Broth is the basis for vegetable soup, beef and noodles, chili. I mean, you can use it for all kinds of things. Never throw away broth. Thanks for watching. If you got anything out of the video, please give me a like, comment, share, or subscribe. I hope you have a great evening.